Cowes, the mecca of yachting, a town which has seen the greatest and the smallest boats compete. A town which in 1851 saw the beginning of the America's Yacht Cup races. But one day a year is also the town where those interested in a more modern sport make their pilgrimage. For the last weekend in August each year, those who ride the greyhounds of the ocean come to Cowes to take part in this classic event. At 220 miles, this race to Torquay and back provides the greatest test of machinery and men, and whoever wins is held in high acclaim by his fellow drivers. The hulls need to be tough and the machinery reliable, but most of all, the punishment on the crews when they crash from wave to wave is said to be akin to being used as a punch bag by Muhammad Ali. Only the best survive. Powerboat designer produces for ultimate performance, but even in the most modern craft, like this cigarette hull, which has come straight to Cowes from its Miami builders, disaster can face the unwary. At speeds of 85 miles an hour, powerboat racing has been described as the ultimate high. The wind tears off one's helmet, and the noise from the 1,000 horsepower engine is deafening. Toyota Cowes Torquay Cowes Classic, a competitive brand of Japanese car manufacturer, supports the Grand National. Toyota throw their weight behind its seagoing equivalent. This is the 19th in the series, and today the presence of the waterborne Formula One racing driver is now an accepted part of the Solent scene. Like all sporting epics, the tension and excitement begins building up well before the starter drops his flag. Officials begin examining craft on the eve of the race. They must comply with the rules and carry safety equipment which will ensure their crews will survive if an emergency should arise. Engines vary enormously in power. Many favour the heavier diesel for its reliability and lower fuel cost, like the Class II Roman Sabre and its arch rival Apache. These crafts can be fitted with diesels of 16 litres, equivalent power to a couple of juggernauts. But it's hard to match the glamour and sheer power of the huge petrol engines which drive the Class 1 outfits. Those in Class 1 can push even more punch, but big and small, they all join the same lineup. Safety is paramount, and crews are protected with helmets and life jackets, as well as ample padding in their cockpits, where they stand for hours. The Toyota race attracts competitors from as far as the United States and as close as the Isle of Wight itself.
You ready?
A racing powerboat is engineering perfection, but it is the eyes of the official scrutineers which can often save an accident by noticing a suspect engine component or a structural fault missed by the crew. Mint jewellery is favoured for overall victory and is probably the best known on the British racing scene. She is now owned and driven by newcomer Derek Pobjoy.
Tell us a little bit about the boat we're sitting on at the moment, or who designed it, that type of thing.
Well, this boat was built by Don Shedd. It's made of aluminium. It's an unwelded frame. It's got 2 Aeromarine engines.
And what size, what horsepower?
Well, they're 1,250 horsepower.
So it's churning out a fair amount of power.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
What sort of speeds do you reckon you'll reach tomorrow, providing the conditions are reasonably clear?
Well, it just depends. We try and keep behind. If we feel we can take another boat, it's always the best thing to try and make the boat go slower so that you can pick him on the finishing line. Then you're not putting too much strain at the beginning on everything.
Engines. How much fuel are you carrying tomorrow?
We're carrying just over 300 gallons of avgas.
It's a fairly expensive commodity.
Yeah, a very volatile one as well.
But not all drivers are after the overall prize. David Hagan in the Class 2 Apache goes for diesel and reliability.
I think our chances are probably very, very good at winning Class 2 tomorrow. We've been doing very, very well in the British races so far, and I don't think there have been too many changes in that, so I look forward to a good race tomorrow.
And who do you see as your main threat for tomorrow afternoon?
I think our main threat remains Rowan Sabre. They've been progressively developing the boat throughout the season, and they've been making it go a little bit faster every time. But he hasn't caught yet, and I'm optimistic that that'll be the same pattern tomorrow.
Rough or smooth tomorrow for you?
I would prefer it to be smooth, but the weather forecast at the moment, as you know, is not very good for us, so it looks like being a rough race, which probably increases his chances a little bit, I would think.
Up to what point? Presumably as a monohull you will go better if it gets very rough.
That's true, that's true. But this is a fairly old boat, and we're developing it now to terrific speeds. So obviously we're a little bit untried in the very heavy weather. So that remains to be seen what happens.
What engines are you running for tomorrow's race?
Well, the engines this year have been developed up to 365 horsepower, the diesel engines, and they've been running particularly well. Our speed over the last long race was a little over 66 miles an hour average speed.
So what are you touching at top end?
Oh, over 70, certainly over 70 miles an hour.
Moving on for a pair of diesels.
It is.
Things are advancing very quickly, of course.
Yes.
There's been quite a lot of talk around the compound today about propellers and picking the right pitch for tomorrow, vis-a-vis whether the weather gets rough, etc. And obviously on the long leg down to Torquay, it could be quite vital.
If the wind's in the southeast, and if the weather is 4-6, somewhere around there, then obviously that's a difficult decision for me. I hope to race my 25-inch pitch propellers, but if it gets really bad, then I'll have no choice but to race with 24s, which obviously slows the boat down, but it gives you more torque and more flexibility in the way you can drive the boat through the rough weather.
And thinking just on a little bit further, Class 1 as the outright winner of the race, who's your tip for tomorrow?
My tip for tomorrow, Limit Up, without a doubt.
Any particular reason?
They're a very, very efficient team of guys, and they seem, in my opinion, to do it properly.
Limit Up is only a few days old, whereas Hagan's Apache was built 10 years ago for the Round Britain race. Hagan will be satisfied with class wins, but others go for overall victory at any price. Like Mike Doxford's team, which almost won the World Championship 2 years ago and is probably the leading British contender. They have 2 boats to choose from, one for the rough and one for smooth. The only competitor with such an advantage. How does Mike Doxford rate his chances?
Naturally, it's like to see the 77, which I'm going to be obviously when it's a new boat. It's only just arrived in England 2 weeks ago without any hardware in it, no engines, no electronics. And we finished it late last night, and this morning the final touches were put to it. Went in the water today, first time ever. So if it's going to win, it's going to need to be a bit lucky. I don't think any boat's ever come out of the box and won a race first off. but I'd be very happy if either of the two limit-ups win.
Fine. So, who do you see as your main threat to either 77 or the 78 limiter?
With the wind that's blowing today, I should think Bounty Hunter should run very well. The Italian boats will certainly run quite well in the rough. You know, mint jewelry, that will run well, but not as well probably as the 39 cigarette and the 37 cigarette. The 40-foot will do well in the rough. If it's calm and we get some sheltered water, then obviously the cougar cat must be the favorite.
Britain was the first country to break through into a new area of hull design. James Baird and Clive Curtis's Cougar Marine is now a byword in these aerodynamic races, and Tolman Group here at Cowes is a fine example. But her performance since her launching has been disappointing. She's been plagued with mechanical trouble and has yet to finish a race. Some like rough weather, others calm, and the 39-foot cigarette of Michelle Maynard of the United States is an ideal rough weather boat. Maynard only joined the sport 3 months ago.
You're looking for a rough race for tomorrow?
Yes, we are.
The hull, it's a cigarette, yes?
It's a cigarette hull, yes, a brand new boat. She has done 3 races. It'll be the 4th one tomorrow.
And have you had a win yet with her?
Not yet. We had a second in Miami.
But tomorrow's the big one?
We hope so, yes.
All right, fine. And how long have you and Bob been together racing?
Not long. I am new at it. Bob has been doing it a much longer time than I have. So Bob has been there in a few years. I'm just my first season.
Are you enjoying it?
I'm more than enjoying it.
You're obviously having a good time.
Yes.
What horsepower engines are you running for tomorrow?
We have about twin 625, 630 horsepower.
So you'll be punching sort of 1300 plus tomorrow?
Yes, we will.
What sort of speed are you hoping to attain? Presuming it was flat, perhaps, tomorrow?
In the 80s.
In the 80s?
Yes.
Near to 90 or near to 80?
It's hard to tell right now. We're testing some props, propellers, and we will see. I mean, we hope close to 80.
We understand, we've just heard that there's a forecast just been given out for 4-7 for tomorrow. Is that good news as far as you're concerned?
4-7? We didn't hear it. Yes.
It's just apparently been announced.
Wind force wind to 7? Oh, that's beautiful.
That's good news.
Yes, we love it.
All right, Michael, Bob, best of luck. Nice to see you over here, and let's see you go well tomorrow.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
The Class 2 Miss Pearl-Calder is another craft which likes rough weather, and this will be her first Cowes Torquay Cowes race. She'll be carrying a confident Noel Edmonds. How does he rate his chances?
Very good. Very, very good. Mind you, if you'd asked me that this morning, I'd have probably said not very good, because I didn't know what the weather forecast was. But the key thing about this race is the length and the different sort of water that you have to go through. I'm trying to sound very knowledgeable, and I've never done it.
Well,
I've never done it before.
Yes, this is very good.
But the thing about Miss Pearl-Calder is that she's a new design of hull. A chap called Brian Hendicott designed it, and he's designed it as more a foul weather boat. And I think that if it's really rough, we could stand a very good chance. We're down on power compared with many of the other competitors, and the engines we've got are not as good as they ought to be for the class that we're in. We're Class 2, and of course the Class 1 have got even bigger engines. But once it gets choppy, once we get out in the bay, then I think we could really find that we're picking up a lot of time.
We've heard in the last few minutes there's a 4-7 being forecast for tomorrow.
Yeah.
That's presumably very good news as far as you're concerned.
Yeah, it's bad news for my body. It's excellent news for my chances in the race. The thing about us, as I say, is a brand new boat, and this is very much a trial year.
But you're obviously very confident about the design as a heavy weather boat.
Yeah, well, I mean, we've had 5 races. We've broken down 4 times, only because of the engines, nothing to do with the hull design or anything else being wrong. But we've won. The one race we won was a 4-6 fairly heavy sea, and we won that by miles and miles. So I'm fairly confident that if the weather is as bad as they say it's going to be, that it'll take a bit of time. We might have to stop for sandwiches and things, but we could well be in with a chance.
Whatever the weather, there is only one winner, and all eyes are on Dry Martini of Italian Guido Nicolai. His professional approach is reflected in an enormous number of wins, helped no doubt by American throttle man David Wilson, who is known for his impeccable preparation.
David, how do you see your chances with the Martini boat tomorrow?
We're as well prepared as anybody in the fleet. I think we should do the distance at a reasonable pace. If the seas aren't too bad tomorrow, we'll maintain a good pace.
And who do you see as your main threat for tomorrow?
Most of the boats in the field are all very well prepared for this event. In the past, they haven't been, but this is the biggest race in Europe, and everybody's ready.
And how have you been doing this season in Europe yourselves?
It's been an exceptional year for us. I don't have the answers, but out of 6 races, we have 5 firsts and 1 second.
Well, that can't be bad. It must bode well for you for tomorrow.
Well, the only thing is that after you do that, there's only one way you can go, and it's down.
Sure. So let's take the hypothetical, hopefully, and Martini doesn't actually make it to from Cowes to Torquay and back. Who do you see as the likely winner?
It's extremely difficult. If there's any kind of break in the weather, the catamaran, the Tolman boat, has an excellent chance.
So, do you have an interesting job in powerboating, acting as throttle man? Tell us a little bit about what throttle man does.
It's ever-changing, and it's more or less like flying a boat over the surface, keeping it under control and getting the most out of it without damaging the equipment. What it amounts to is trying to run as slow as you can and still win the race and keep the equipment together.
And what sort of speeds do you reckon you'll be attaining tomorrow, assuming that the forecast stays reasonably calm for everybody?
I would say we should average something like 70 miles an hour, if the weather is reasonable.
And maximum speed for the boat?
We're running around 85.
That's quick enough for you to obviously see the competition off at the moment.
Well, if you can keep everything together and run the distance at that speed, yeah, there's nobody going to be at the finish line to meet you.
Some pray for flat seas, others for rough, but the prayers of those with the slower, more seaworthy craft were answered with gusto. Race day dawned with southeasterly gales raging in all areas west of the Isle of Wight. Reports came back of 30-foot waves in the treacherous Lyme Bay, a 45-mile open sea crossing where many past competitors have come to grief. Never before has the race been postponed, but postponed it is. What a difference a day makes, 24 tiny hours. Well, the postponement certainly worked, and the new race day dawned with tranquil waters, ideal for racing. It was almost from the sublime to the ridiculous. It was obvious from the calms which now prevailed to the west of the start line that it would be a case of throttles to the wall. It was going to be a battle between 5 Class 1 boats, Dry Martini 2, the new limit up of Mike Doxford, You-Know Mint Jewelry of Derek Pobjoy, Bounty Hunter driven by American Michelle Maynard, and Ted Tolman in the very fast Cougar catamaran. In Class 2, all eyes would obviously be on the battle between Apache, Roman Sabre and Miss Pearl Corder. If drivers have second thoughts, then it must be as they move up to the start line. They leave Cowes behind them and head east for Oldcastle Point, where the mustering area lies at the foot of Queen Victoria's Osborne House. Even the rough weather boys know they will have an easier ride in these conditions. But what other problems will they face? Will their engines keep going? Will the hull last a distance? Will the navigator find his marks bang on the nose? Or will it mean retracing the course in a time-consuming search and so lose any chance of a class prize? This is the moment when the stomach muscles tighten, but within 5 minutes, all will be forgotten as the fleet, pushed by thousands of horsepower, heads round that first 16-mile lap of the Solent before shooting west to Torquay. The flag drops and they are away. Dry Martini and You-Know Mint Jewelry, the Class 1 monsters, immediately move ahead on their 16-mile circuit of the Solent. Dry Martini shoots into the lead. Nothing seems to match a performance. Mike Doxford has obviously made the right choice. He lies third in his new cigarette Limit Up. But his second boat, driven by Willie Myers from the Bahamas, is not far behind. American Michel Maynard lies fourth. His rough weather did not materialise, and he's paying the price for choosing the heavier craft. But already the pace has proved just too much for some contenders. One of the Alitalia challengers is out, but the tragedy for Britain in these conditions is the Tolman Group catamaran, which has already broken a drive shaft and is limping back for the Cowes. Derek Hobjoy is not letting the Italian slip away and hangs in his wash as they head west down the Solent for the open sea. American Michel Maynard, in his first Cowes Torquay race, is taking it cautiously. If the weather is less calm on his westward run, he may be able to move up. Bounty Hunter is still making a challenge. The engines gulp air through a large intakes as she chases the leaders, but the pace is beginning to tell, and Limit Up still has plenty in hand. Michel Maynard later breaks a crankshaft, and Bounty Hunter limps for home, leaving a slot to Willie Myers in Doxford's second Limit Up. She will also feature if the seas roughen up on the western run. It's a famous craft and already holds the record for a 22-hour run between Miami and New York. But today she has to be content to pace the lead pack. With Dry Martini miles ahead, it's the turn of Popjoy to be overtaken as the newer Limit Up, with Mike Doxford and Tim Powell at the controls, moves into second place and sets about chasing the Italian. Limit Up is travelling at well over 80 miles per hour, but with the seas off the Dorset coast still calm, the advantage is with the Italian. 50 miles complete and another 156 to go. The calmer sea doesn't seem to bother David Hagan in Apache. He lays fifth overall, leading the lower-powered Class 2 contenders. A boat designed and built in 1969, she looks like putting up one of her best performances in this race and is going faster than the day she was built. David Hagan is well ahead of his nearest Class 2 rival, Michael Blunt, in Miss Four Seasons roofing. But that doesn't seem to worry the crew of Apache as they round Anvil Point and head for Portland Bill. Lying 10th is Italian Alberto Smania, who has borrowed a British boat for the occasion. But this race is always full of surprises and hard luck stories. He is another who later retires when he strips a gearbox. The race for the beautiful cat with the incredible name, Miss Four Seasons Roofing, is over. Her driver walks back to examine an engine, only to find the conrod through the starboard outer. He has no alternative but to limp back for home. Apache's close rival, Roman Sabre, driven by John Cracksford, lies 7th. The weather is just not to her liking. A new innovation for Class 2 diesel-powered racers, the wind is just not strong enough to get this large aluminium catamaran unstuck from the surface. Another out of her element is Miss Torquay, lying 8th. Noel Edmonds is having an easier ride, but much slower than he'd hoped for. Apache is one of the few with a trouble-free ride. All the hours of preparation begin to pay off. Anything left to chance can spell disaster. Everything has to be just right.
Out on the street, I was talking to a man. He said there's so much for the stuff of mine that I don't understand. You shouldn't worry, I said that ain't no crime. 'Cause if you get it wrong, you'll get it right next time.
But Doxford always gets it right, or does he? A mechanical failure slows him to a stop in Lyme Bay. The loss of oil pressure on his starboard 650 horsepower Mercruiser engine can be a serious problem.
You need direction, yeah, you need a name. When you stand at the crossroads, every highway looks the same. After a while, you get to recognize the signs. So if you get it wrong, you get it right next time.
There are no spare engines out here, and little can be done away from the workshop, even when carrying a top-class engineer in the crew. It appears that topping up the oil is their only hope.
Life is a liar, yeah, life is a cheat. It'll lead you on and through the ground from underneath your feet. No use complaining, don't you worry, don't you whine. 'Cause if you get it wrong, you'll get it right next time.
Getting it right first time, that's Martini. It's her lucky day, and her only serious challenger is gone. Or has it? A 5-minute breakdown can make all the difference in a race like this, but there is still a long way to go.
You gotta grow, you gotta learn by your mistakes. You gotta die a little every day to try to stay awake. When you believe there's no mountain you can climb, and if you get it wrong, you get it right next time. Next time. Next time.
Apache is still going strong, and Doxford's second boat is running sweetly. Breakdowns among fellow competitors has promoted them through the fleet. The larger limit up now lies second, 5 miles behind the leader. It's now the homeward run. The double crossing of Lyme Bay proves calm in both directions. Portland Bill marks the last milestone for the run back to the Solent. Having stopped to change propeller, Dry Martini has made up lost ground and is now clearly in the lead as she heads home to Cowes. Willie Myers in Doxford's second boat enters the Solent and passes along the beach of Hurst Castle, not knowing that he now lays second overall. So near, but so far. Another with the end in sight is Apache. She will take third position overall. But for Mike Doxford, the earlier contender, it's a cruel home. His oil top-up didn't work and the engine broke down completely. And now her crew lie on a foredeck to give her remaining engine the advantage of a level ride. Retirements help many, and without increasing her performance, Roman Sabre is finished 4th. Within 3 hours, hours and 220 miles, the winner is back in Cowes. Back home and time for celebration, and the champagne alongside the winner's berth moored off the famous Royal Yacht Squadron. Is cleaned ready for its next race. This is the time for reflection. Nikolai has won the Toyota Cowes Torquay Cowes, an achievement which rates at the top of all powerboat conquests. But was there a moment when the crew thought the victory would slip from their grasp?
Well, never out of contention, but we broke a propeller just before Torquay, and it cost us at least 5 minutes, and got passed by another boat at that point.
Who came past you at that point?
Doxford, Michael Doxford, was very close at that point. When we broke the propeller, he had at least a 4-minute lead on us, and that's hard to make up.
John, did you have any navigational problems at all during the race?
No, not really. The visibility was sort of about down to about sort of 3-4 miles down at Torquay. So we weren't quite on line coming in there, but that was the only place we had any problems at all. Otherwise, the visibility was very good all the way around the course.
We don't claim to be the best there is, but we go into a race prepared the best we can be. We don't leave anything unturned. In other words, we work on all phases of the boat, and it's as right as we can make it for every race.
All right. John, David, thank you very much. Congratulations once again, and let's hope we see you back again next year and perhaps be going even faster.
We will be. Thank you.
All right.
Thanks.
Gotta go home.
And so Guido Nicolai becomes European champion without even taking part in the last heat. He now has the World Championship to look forward to at Venice in 8 weeks' time. But that is another story.